Is Max Verstappen more in sync with his car at Red Bull than Lewis Hamilton ever was with his car at Mercedes? And is he more in sync with his car than any driver in Formula One history? Now, add a caveat to that thing is that he might be the most in sync because he probably has one of the best designed cars of all time by Adrian Newey. Adrian Newey has designed some of the greatest cars in Formula One history, the Williams, the Red Bull, the McLaren of the early 2000s. So he has a great track record. And it's true to say that Vettel may have not been the best driver ever, but he won 9 races in a row when a car was essentially built around him by Adrian Newey. And then as soon as he didn't have the winning car, the first season without a winning car, he has Daniel Ricciardo, who's a brand new teammate at Red Bull, and he gets totally smoked by this guy who ends up winning 3 races while Vettel can't win any. So you have to factor that in. Is Max Verstappen in the right place at the right time? No, because Max Verstappen is still probably one of the best Formula One drivers ever. And why is that? First of all, every second of his life is consumed by racing. When he's not racing, you never see him out of clubs. You never see him hanging out with people. Maybe pictures with his girlfriend every now and then. But really, it's all about sim racing. I mean, he does these like 24-hour sim races. He'll be online all the time. And he's serious about it. It's not a joke or a Twitch stream like Lando Norris or Charles Leclerc. It's all serious. And he gets pissed off. He just takes people out and rage quits. This guy is all about it. Think about like a Michael Jordan, someone who just dedicated every second of their life to their craft. Now, Lewis Hamilton is actually impressive considering he did have a life outside of it, yet he was super dominant. But we have to look at the career statistics. Lewis, I think at his height, was able to win like 11 races in a row, and I actually think that Mercedes car was so freaking dominant because when he had a Nico Rosberg, which I think a lot of us think he was a good driver, but he's not one of the best all time, they essentially won every single race other than one where Lewis Hamilton's engine blew up and then the one in Spain where they took each other out. That car was so dominant that a guy like Valtteri Bottas, that none of us even think is one of the best Formula One drivers ever, not even in the conversation, has the record with Lewis Hamilton for the most 1-2s in Formula One history. That's how dominant that Mercedes car was. And even with that, I mean, Lewis Hamilton's been able to accrue this record wins, but it's because not only he's been in Formula One since 2007, he's always had the right car from the start. Max Verstappen had to start with Scuderia Toro Rosso. He had to be in a Red Bull while Mercedes was being dominant. And he's just had a significant amount of less years with a dominant car than Lewis Hamilton. Now, Max is on his 7-race win streak. I most likely believe he'll dominate at the Belgian Grand Prix. I mean, he dominated last season from like, what did he start, 12th or 15th? Got to first within like, I think, 12 laps. So it doesn't look like anything will change unless it's raining, because it might almost look like it's a canceled Grand Prix because every statistic shows it's going to rain all weekend. But it just seems like he's in the right groove at the right time. They have added Grand Prix, but he has now the record that he attained at 24 last season for most Grand Prix win in a season. And now he's just got 2 second places and 9 wins. You'd have to say he's probably in the most sync with the car that any Formula One driver ever has been. And I say that because if you look back and you talk about Senna and Prost, yes, they could be in sync with the car, but there were so many failures. There's so many engine failures. There's so many issues. Steering columns, exhaust, everything could break on, a second's notice. These Formula One generation cars don't even stop anymore. I mean, if you looked at all the Grand Prix we watched, you barely see any cars' engines blow up or anything stop. I mean, some of the back of the pack, you see that with Haas. You've seen it with Alpine. But, I mean, very sparingly. So now you're in a situation where cars never have issues anymore. You're in the best designed car by the best designed Formula One engineer of all time. And Max is making a case that he might be one of the best modern Formula One drivers of all time. Now, I say modern because these guys of the past didn't have all this data, telemetry, buttons at their fingers. All they had to do was take a steering wheel and throw it around, and they didn't have all these forms of traction control and all these things and all the engineers walking them through it. Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna had to get in a car with maybe 2 buttons on it and just throw that thing around. And now it's like they have it so much easier. They get out of the car, it looks like they just came from a spa or something. They're not even sweating. Certainly not like Nigel Mansell, who got out of that car in Monaco and is passing out because he was trying to pass Senna for 20 laps and doing everything in his power. So it is a different time, and you do have to factor that into everything. But Max is just at this point in his career where if it stays the way it's staying, how many of you think he could actually end up winning the all-time record? I mean, he'll probably hit 50 by the end of the season. That's halfway to Hamilton's. It doesn't look like anybody's going to challenge him this season. It's all essentially in store for what's next. And I think he's probably better in sync with this car than he has been with any other car, and any driver has been with any other car in Formula One history. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, tell me what you think, because I took a lot of shots at a bunch of other drivers who had perfect cars and perfect engineering at the time. I'd like to know your opinion. Also, subscribe and like the video so we can grow this channel out. Thank you very much.